Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Today's parasha is called Vaera. And it begins with, "And God spoke to Moses, saying to him, I am Yud-He Vav-He." I wish we knew how to pronounce this name, but we don't, so I will say Yud-He Vav-He when we mean Adonai. He reminds Moses, God reminds Moses in this parasha, that there was a land that he had covenanted to give to his people. But that promise had become a distant memory generations after Jacob had left Canaan. They forgot this covenant long after the people had prospered in Egypt, where they were now enslaved. This theme has happened to us time and time again over the centuries. But everywhere we have lived, the promise remains. God told Moses what he was going to do. He said, I will free you. I will deliver you. I will redeem you with an outstretched arm and great wonders. I will take you to be my people, and I will be your God. Then you shall know that I, Yud-He-Vav-He, am your God who freed you. But they couldn't believe him because their spirits were crushed. Isn't it like that today? The spirits of our people are still reeling, believe it or not, from the Spanish Inquisition, from the pogroms of the late 1800s, from the Holocaust not long ago, from the constant wars after Israel was granted statehood in 1948, but especially since October 7th, 2 years ago. But instead of remembering the covenant, most of our people have turned their backs on God, and they're crying out, where were you when all these things happened? Rather than asking ourselves, where were we? But the promise, the covenant remains. Exodus 6:13 says, Adonai spoke to Moshe and Aaron, and commanded the Israelites. Listen carefully. Adonai spoke to them and commanded the Israelites and the Pharaoh, king of Egypt, that the Israelites proceed out of the land of Egypt. Why would God have to command the Israelites to leave Egypt? We would think that they would jump at the chance to be set free. But why do people continue to live in abject misery and refuse to do anything to change? They had forgotten the covenant, the promise. The Israelites, however, were not the only ones who were being introduced to Yud-He-Vav-He, the Almighty. Exodus 7:5 tells us that the Egyptians shall know that I am Yud-He-Vav-He. The Egyptians shall know when I stretch out my hand over Egypt and bring the Israelites out from their midst. God wants everyone to know who he is, and that they can trust him to keep his promise, his covenant. When we are when we are first introduced to God, as Moses was, we have a decision to make. Either we trust him or we harden our hearts, as Pharaoh did. We may not realize at the time that that's what we're doing, but we have become, and the reason is because we have become so accustomed to soothing our pain with false gods that we can no longer see the road to freedom. The gods of Egypt looked awesome. They had huge golden temples, promises of whatever the heart desired. Instead of the Creator, they trusted in nature, the sun, the moon, and the earth, and the Nile for their sustenance. It was a god. Their gods offered protection and a way to the afterlife. Their gods maintained cosmic harmony through rituals of appeasement. The gods told our fortunes, influenced our future, promised fertility and happiness, and even misfortune if they were displeased. Their gods were made in the image of man. And the plagues represented the Creator's way of showing us that they held no power over us. This was a spiritual war. It is exactly what is happening in the world today. And it cannot be won with human weapons, with our pride, with our knowledge expressed by brilliant rhetoric, or even the massive strength of our armies, or even the threat of nuclear weapons. For our prophet Zechariah in 4:6 told us, "Not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit, said the Lord of the armies, Adonai Tzebaot." So how do we fight this type of war? We remember his promise, his covenant. In chapter 6, verse 14, Moses names only a few of the leaders from the offspring of the 12 tribes. He mentions the son of Shimon, Simeon, who was a violent man, yet his progeny, his offspring, succumbed to becoming slaves in Egypt without fighting back. We often see that children whose parents have prospered after years of their hard work rarely follow in their footsteps. One of Shimon's sons, Shaul, the son of a Canaanite woman, was mentioned. Why? Was it to draw our attention to the many offspring of the ancient Israelites today who have married people whose beliefs were foreign to the God of Israel? Let me say that again. We read of Shimon's sons, one of his sons, Shaul, the son of a Canaanite woman. Was he showing us that many of the offspring of those people today have married people whose beliefs were foreign and are foreign to the God of Israel? These people eventually assimilated into foreign cultures and their gods. They have forgotten the promise. At the risk of erasing God's name, Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh, as well as the name Israel. This is what allows the pharaohs of the world to succeed. But Moses then does something that might easily escape our attention. He names the offspring of Levi, who later serve as Kohanim, the priests. These are to reestablish the link between the Israelites and their God. The promise will once again call his people. Chapter 6 ends with Moses appealing to God. Who am I to speak to Pharaoh? I who am tongue-tied. I like that word, tongue-tied, better than what we read in the portion. I can only imagine what Moses was experiencing, or what he had experienced during his 40 years living as a Hebrew in Pharaoh's court, inside the lair of his enemy. Remember, Pharaoh had wanted to annihilate the Jews, to remove every trace of them from history, like Hitler tried to do not so very long ago. I just watched a video about David Miller, a Jewish teenager in Poland whose entire family was murdered by the Nazis. He became a spy for the Polish resistance, working undercover as a Hitler youth. He was trained and was privy to the Nazis' diabolical plans for his people. He struggled within because he had to become the person he hated. For so long, he had lived this lie that at times his psyche became so confused about who he really was. How could Moses suddenly speak to the great Pharaoh when he had spent years hiding who he was, with the exception of perhaps a few of those sworn to secrecy by the woman who had saved him, Bitya, Pharaoh's daughter? Did she hear from God? Was she among the ones who left Egypt? But instead of arguing with Moses, God said, "See, I am making you a god to Pharaoh, and Aaron will be your prophet." Again, a spiritual, yet practical and merciful solution. God would continue to harden Pharaoh's stubborn heart in order to break his pride. Another major theme in the Torah. But after the seventh plague, in chapter 9:27, Pharaoh finally acknowledged, "Chatati, the Lord, I am guilty. Adonai hatzadik, Adonai is righteous. V'ani ve'ami harshaim, I and my people are wicked." Now he sounds authentic, but we know that Pharaoh's words were empty. The pagan gods were used to battling each other and believing that at some point they would be victorious. His gods could make promises, but they were fickle and could change their minds at any time. We don't serve a God we can appease with money or flattery. Our God allows us to suffer the consequences of our actions, as he did with Pharaoh. Then he steps in and helps us start again. The Torah teaches us that acknowledging our guilt is just the first step toward healing. Unless we take the next steps towards restitution, nothing will change. Change doesn't happen overnight, and sometimes it may take 10 plagues to get us to listen. In Exodus 9:13, Moses told Pharaoh, "This is what Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh, the God of the Hebrews, says. Send my people to worship, avodah, to worship me." Avodah means to serve. For Pharaoh, it meant enslavement for his purposes. For God, it meant working together with him to fulfill our purpose in the world, as revealed in verse 16. "But for this purpose, I raised you to show you my power, and that my name," that means my reputation, "may be proclaimed in all the earth." There's only one name, Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh, who is the creator of the universe. And when we take his name in vain, there are consequences. Just as the nation of Israel would be set free, would be set up, just as the nation of Israel would be set apart from the other nations, after the second plague, Goshen was set apart from the rest of the land of Egypt. And God tells us why. "So that you may know that I, Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh, am in the midst of the land." In the midst of what land? We weren't in the promised land. We were still in the land of Egypt. This raises so many questions. What does Goshen represent to us today? Is it that God would be in our midst wherever we live outside the land? And who then are God's chosen people? Perhaps a hint lies in Exodus 9:20, which says, "Those among Pharaoh's courtiers who feared the word of Adonai brought their slaves and their livestock indoors to safety." And verse 26 says, "There was no hail in the land of the region of Goshen where the Israelites were." The Hebrews were protected in Goshen, together with Egyptians who obeyed, wherever they lived, while the rest of the Egyptians' crop and animals were being devastated. Were these some of the people who would later leave the Israelites? So many questions. We know that the promise of the land was made to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, not to Ishmael and Esau, even though they were blood brothers. So it's not a matter of bloodline. None of these men were native-born Israelites, because that lay in the future. It was always a matter of God's choice. You know, Orthodox Jews living in Israel today are calling for every Jew in the diaspora to return to the land of Israel. It's been a core theme of Judaism for centuries, long before the state of Israel, the modern state of Israel. But this raises many questions for me. I question Orthodox Judaism's desire to rebuild the temple, to reinstate the sacrificial system, but especially to build bridges between Jews and Christians. Isn't that like saying that the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is just for the Jews, while the Gentiles can have their God, and that only they have to observe the seven fabricated Noahide laws? Is this what the Torah is teaching us? Didn't Caleb the Kenizzite, a Gentile, become a leader of the tribe of Judah? Wasn't he given land? Wasn't he held to the same standard as Joshua, a native-born Israelite? Was Ruth, who left her gods behind, prevented from becoming the great-great-grandmother of King David because she was a Moabite? And I don't buy the argument that they converted. There was nothing to convert. Nothing to convert to. All they could do was to remain with their gods or choose the God of Israel. Like the ancient Israelites who had multiplied and were scattered throughout Egypt, God's people are scattered everywhere on earth. Their separation in Goshen, the original shtetl, remains the spiritual Goshen for those of us still in the diaspora. The pharaohs of the world are not necessarily the heads of nations. They may be the heads of systems, such as atheism, democracies, fascism, monarchies, and everything in between that have raised themselves above God's system, theocracy. Pharaoh represents the power-hungry regime, the dictatorship that cannot be questioned. We don't have to look far to see those in the world today. They pretend to care about their people, while in truth they enslave their subjects and only care about themselves. I believe that we are safe in the arms of our God wherever we live, and are called to be a light in the place in which we dwell. The promise remains, and the covenant will be fulfilled in the future. And we will wonder why all these disasters are happening in the world today. And in our lives, if we wonder why all these disasters are happening in the world and in our lives today, as the plagues happened in Egypt, let us consider that perhaps our behavior is dishonoring the name of Yud-He-Vav-He, preventing it from being proclaimed through all the earth. Do we, like Pharaoh, expect no response from him? Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Now the time to discuss the portion, the message. You know, as I was reading it, I realized that I brought in so many things. There were so many things in this parasha, and I don't know if I was able to tie it all together, which is why I appreciate this time when we can look back. You know, we've been given a promise, and we have forgotten the promise. We forget the promise wherever we live. God told us, when you go into the land, and you grow fat, don't forget me. And one of the problems that I'm witnessing in the world today is really we have forgotten our God. We've forgotten the covenant that he made with us. But when I look at the land of Israel today, because I listen to different groups, there's one group that I hear who are living in the land, Orthodox Jews, who are inviting us all here who are in the diaspora to come back to the land. And I'm not sure that this is the land yet that I want to go back to. You know, and when I read that one verse where it said that we were separated in the land of Goshen. We were in the diaspora there. We weren't living in the land. We weren't in the promised land. And he says, I will be with you in the midst of the land. So he's really with us everywhere we are. We are today, in my estimation, my understanding, living in what's called a spiritual Goshen. When I look around in my city, the things that are happening, and around the world in our countries, and it's like we're watching the plagues of Egypt hit the world today. And I say, okay, where, what do we do? Where do we go? Is there a place to hide? You know, I remember Yeshua said, we will hear of wars. I think it was Yeshua. We will hear of wars and rumors of wars, and all these things will be happening in various places. But don't worry, it's not yet. The time is not yet. So I really believe that he was looking at these portions in the Torah and letting us know that don't worry, I will be with you wherever you go. And I see that in my life. I see how people are struggling and struggling and yet I'm watching how I'm being blessed. Sometimes I almost feel guilty for it. And then I say, well, God is telling us just be obedient. Obey me. And those who obeyed in Egypt, the courtiers who belonged to Pharaoh's court, who heard what Moses was saying and they obeyed, they were blessed. So, and it's not a matter of just Jews being blessed. It's everyone who wants to follow the God of Israel, like what has always happened. We saw that with Ruth. We saw that with Caleb. It's, and the Orthodox Jews living in the land are telling us, well, we want to rebuild the temple. I don't believe we need to rebuild a temple. We know, why would we want to bring in the sacrificial system again when that's no longer needed? We need to present ourselves. There are so many things, and I'm hoping that I was able to draw some of these things together. It's so difficult to do a message. Mauricio, you're so good at it. You're able to keep a thread, and I'm like, I'm all over the place, and I'm not always so sure that well, this is my training. I'll be trained until I go and be with God. So, can you add anything else to what you heard for the first time and what I was trying to bring out to you?
Thank you, Peggy, for that. Um, a good message. For me, it's normal in my head to go all over the place and try and tie things together. It's very hard to write a message.
It's
Remember
a
the
very
one message
Jewish way of thinking. Rabbi,
uh,
it's a very Jewish way of thinking. Rabbi would used to say, "I go in circles and circles and hope I come to the end."
although nowadays it's yeah, it's a Jewish way of thinking, but it's also certain people tend to do that
Yeah,
more. I mean, but anyway, I like what you said also about the courtiers. You could breeze over that, with the certain plagues and certain things that there were Egyptians who followed it too, like
ex-
that, like the courtiers. I mean, you could just pass over that. I
yeah,
mean,
and the other thing we could pass over is which of the sons were named. They weren't all named. Shimon was named. Shaul, the son of the Canaanite, was named. And the Levites were emphasized. The Levites would be the link to bring us back to the promise. It's just, there's so much in here. It's astounding.
I get it's like, it's there's such um a thread going through all the scriptures and you could so easily miss it and it seems like there are two or three gods. How could there be a different standard of everything for non-Jewish people?
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
it's so apparent. And just when you say that, two sons born to the same person, if you're going to say Jewish people, then Ishmael is Jewish, Esau is Jewish. I mean,
Exactly.
how could you, like racial, it's
Yeah.
so absurd and people sort of don't see that. Well,
Yeah.
I'm Jewish. Well,
Yeah.
really, not everybody who calls themselves Jewish are really Jewish when you think about it because it's
Are
not a
really
racial thing.
are really Yehudim who are praisers of God.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I understand it because when I was in the Messianic movement, I would go to a lot of meetings, and especially at the beginning, they made rules that Gentiles who believed in the messianic way could not become leaders in the messianic movement because there were so many more of them than us that eventually we would lose our Jewishness.
But that's a different thing. Yeah, go on.
But that's one of the reasons they do, because there's so many more Gentiles than Jews, but they're missing the point. They're missing the Calebs and the Ruths who are integrated into the system of the theocracy of God being the leader, God
Right,
being the
right.
head. We are not the leaders. We are following his system, but we're caught up in the Pharaoh systems, as you spoke about last week, Mauricio. It's a system. And there's only two systems, God's the systems and the world system.
Yeah, it's really simple.
It
And
is.
it's complex, but it's a
Yes.
simple, beautiful message. And yeah, I'm always amazed by that. Um I was just gonna say something. Well, the whole idea of Goshen, that in Egypt, we're talking about they kept them safe and they were in the diaspora, even at that point. So Goshen is way more than a land. It's not, it's wherever you are.
Exactly.
And that's so
That
important.
God would be with us wherever we are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because do we, as Jews, run to Israel today so we could be safe? Going to be safe in Israel? The only place we're safe is in the arms of God.
Yeah. Um, what was I going to say? Something else, I forget.
Okay.
Uh,
Come
well,
back to
just something about um, you know, the idea of appeasing gods or the
yeah.
gods or whatever, but we can even do that. It's so hard to not, I mean, it's one thing, in Isaiah where it says, "Come, let us reason together." So I'm always talking to God, trying to reason things out. But it could sometimes be like manipulative in a way, and I'm always trying to say, God, show me, because I'm certain things that I have to really think about and pray about. And even with this thing I told you, I won't go into it a lot, but about on in March, I have a thing happening on the Shabbat. Now I've really been, since we talked, like it's really been on my heart, that whole thing. But uh
God will show you.
yeah, I'm just saying God will show me
Yeah.
because there's so much at stake.
Yeah.
Like it's a balance between loving my family. I'm more concerned about my brother even than like it's really that because that I think if I don't go, it will be so hurtful to him. Now, is that a testimony? Or like on the one hand, I want to honor God and keep the Shabbat the way he wants, want to be with the
That,
community. I mean, I won't spend money that day and that I could be in a
but can we
sense.
talk about that another time
Oh
because
yeah, okay, just to
everybody
make a
doesn't
point.
know what it
Yeah,
is.
no, I guess what I was, yeah, you're right. I
Yeah.
was just thinking about how it's so important to listen to God and what he really wants us to do.
And we can listen to him. He has ways of speaking to us. I have seen it time and time again when I am struggling with an issue and I don't have an answer. Tell him and wait and watch. He gives us the answer. Yeah. And we'll pray for that God does that with you, Miriam. Yes, Mauricio.
Yeah, well, thank you for the message. By the way, your translation in Spanish was very good. No changes needed.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank
bye.
You can thank
Uh,
BT.
yeah. Now regarding the message, yeah, the for me, honestly, because I have seen many things that you saw, honestly. Okay, and as you mentioned, sometimes there are so many details that we lost ourselves uh,
Yes.
between everything.
Yes.
But for me, remember what we said about Shemot. Shemot means names.
Yes.
Okay, so if we put that context on this portion by Ra,
Okay.
what kind of no, of names God is showing? That is something very interesting to look at this perspective.
Right.
So here there is something that is very subtle, but very, very easy to pass. But at the beginning, it says, okay, in the first verse, it says God is like called attention to Moses to say, "Hey, I am the Lord." Okay,
Right.
so God is showing His name
Right.
to so that is the main point of this portion, to show who is God, because God is presenting Himself. Then the rest of the events are trying to show that He is God. Okay,
Right.
so um, and it's interesting that God explains to Moses, take the time for so many verses to say, Moses, your grandparents and your grandparents knew me by my name El Shaddai.
Right.
And now I am showing you Hey by Hell. So, and that is very interesting because, yes, God is El Shaddai, means breast, also means the Almighty. But there is something that that I really discovered in this week, that Shaddai in Hebrew means so far. So is God saying, until here, there is a limit, okay? So is God limiting Himself for saying something, okay? So, and now God is breaking the laws, okay, of His creation in this portion. How? Because of the thought, the
Signs.
yeah, the signs he showed. For example, how could be possible to convert the water into a blood, for example? That is not natural order.
Right.
So he's not more putting a limit in the history to any god, okay? And now this god is making something that is not conventional.
Right.
He is acting outside the limits he put before, okay? Then we can see, for example, that nothing like a wool can convert into a serpent, okay? And now in this portion appears that Aaron throws the
The rod.
rod, and then the rod becomes a serpent, and that serpent swallows the other serpents.
Right.
So it is like God is breaking the limits of this world, the laws that He put, to say, I am more than any law.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So in so far, until that moment, all the creation and all the societies at that time, okay, they put limits to their gods.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
For example, uh, uh, Ra, okay,
The
is the
sun,
sun,
moon, and
okay,
all.
and this guy has only power through to manage or to control the sun, okay, the life, because thanks to the, then we start to see the Nile. The Nile is life, okay, and Paro, it's like saying, I am the God, okay, of this. So we can start to see how God is breaking the limits, because it's like He's saying, I am limitless, okay,
Right.
I don't have any limit, okay, I can fight for saying something against this God, and that is why he present himself. I will be the ones who well, however I want to manifest. Okay, so that is the point. But there is something that you mentioned also, that God could communicate. Israel, no more El Shaddai, that he manifested himself to our parents, but now he's manifesting to us like you hate by hell. But right now, people, it says that they could not listen because there was something among them. And it was not slavery. It was not pride. No, it's very clear because they have a, a spirit anguish.
Yeah, anguish.
Yeah, anguish.
Yeah,
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 anguish of spirit,
yeah.
and that is in Hebrew mikotzer ruach. Okay, and the other is hard work, which is avodah kasha.
Right,
Okay, so but mikotzer ruach is, for example, have you ever been with a pillow before you? Okay, your breath is uh, very difficult to breathe because the space to breathe is very tiny.
right,
It's a little hole. Okay, you need something more to breathe properly. So that means anguish, okay, of a spirit. Is like uh, people, for example, when they are anguish, they cannot, for example, breathe properly.
right.
They like
Yeah,
okay, and that is something that is saying here. And the other one is a hard work, which is which is um, to work without sense, okay, without purpose, without objective. So it's just working, and at the end, for example, if I made every day 200 bricks, for example, and the next day another 200 bricks, 3 days making 200 bricks, after 10 years making 200 bricks daily, and looking at them that they are not building a new palace, a new things, is just making bricks. Okay, so that becomes senseless work.
right.
Okay, so for those, for both characteristics, they couldn't hear. Okay, and it seems that this is something that today we are living. People have this culture of hard working. The problem is not working, the problem is hard working. And the other thing that is very hard to all of us is what Yeshua mentioned. Remember that there was like a seed, and this seed goes to the spines. I think, and that means the stress of life, of daily life.
I didn't understand.
Okay,
What's
okay. There is a parable about a person who is sowing, and they have seeds, and these seeds he throw to different fields,
okay?
and one of the field had how do you say that,
Like wheat, the wheat and the tares,
thorns.
the
Yeah,
wheat and the tares,
yeah,
the fake ones, the fake wheat.
yes,
Okay,
but there is some seed that goes to a fertile field. So it says that, oh, this is like a Torah. Okay, the person is is like the kind of the is the seed, and it depends of how is the soil. So then the result will turn better or not. But there is one of the fields that he says this is the problem of people since Yeshua's time. I mean, the stress, because it's like hard work. Okay, so that produce on you stress, and this is something I've been dealing honestly, and I have to deal with every day, because sometimes to find out that there is a purpose better than just to make bricks sometimes is very easy to forget, because it's like the objective is that we can reduce costs, that we can make money, that we can get something else in life. But uh, but the problem is that 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 becomes something like too many stress, that God is calling you, but you cannot hear.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
because you are very busy. Okay, you are so busy
Right.
that you don't have time. Okay,
To listen. Right.
to listen. Okay, so God needs that we take time to
Mm-hmm.
listen His voice, and yes, that is important the Shabbat, but I mean, uh, sometimes I have to be honest with all of you. Sometimes there are days that I have not talked to God. Okay, in one day.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so 24 hours not talking to God. Why? Because I was so busy making, daily different occupations, that I forgot to read one verse, to stop and breathe and thank God because of this or that.
Right.
So until the moment I go to bed, and I remember, probably I start to dream, and I remember, oh, I didn't make the Shema. So at that moment, I realized that I didn't talk to God in the whole day.
Mm-hmm.
So that is something that God, yes, he's limitless, he's powerful, he's the one who we want to be, but there, if there is no conscience
Yeah.
about God,
Because the
it's
gods of
like God doesn't exist. Okay,
because the gods of the world keep us very busy.
yeah,
Yeah.
but the point is,
Mm.
okay, why God create the humankind? Okay, it's very easy. He needs that a conscience person be aware that he existed.
Mm.
Okay, in some way.
In
Okay,
everything.
is in everything, but you know, yes, God created the whole world. There were trees, there were animals, there were plants, everything. But God decided to give us conscience, okay, to give us a spirit. In why? Because He wanted that we could see, could listen to, we can perceive that God exists.
Mm-hmm.
When we are with our eyes closed,
Mm-hmm.
our ear closed, okay, we are not aware that He exists. Yes, He exists, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
but for us, it's like God doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, He is manifesting Himself. It's like, okay, right now we have sun, for example, but if I go to a cave for 10 years, for example, I don't see sunlight. I'm not aware that the sun exists, even though the sun is still there. Okay, so that is, it's so important in this portion, and then God starts to manifest Himself with these marvelous signs. okay, not there are four purposes, okay. One, to manifest him, that he is the only one God, to who? To Paro, to the Egyptians and all the society. That is why the magicians, the wise men, and the negromants, and then also to
The
manifest himself to
necromancers.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then also to Israelites,
Right.
and then to all world.
Right.
That is why appears the Canaanian, okay, the woman Shaul, the son of the
Canaanite.
Canaanite.
Right.
So God is manifesting to the whole world, okay,
Interesting.
just not to say, I am the God of Israel. And that is one of the questions I had. Why God manifests himself in Egypt? Why he didn't manifest himself on Israel? Is which is a Kadosh land, okay? No, he manifests himself in Egypt. And he is saying, I am the God of Israel at Egypt. Okay, so it's like I am governing the whole world.
Right.
I am governing the whole land. I am governing the whole societies.
Right.
And then he's breaking the whole system. Okay. People start to, for example, you can see in this portion that they call the finger of God. Okay. And then we can see also in the last portion, Pharaoh said, "Who is God?" Okay, and now he's asking to Moses, "Please ask to God." And Moses replied and said, "Okay, tell me at what time you want to be clean."
Right.
Okay,
Right.
and so he's recognizing there is God. Okay,
Yeah.
but obviously he was knowing that there was God, but he cannot. That's the problem of Paro. Okay, is like this guy of Venezuela, Maduro. Okay, remember Maduro? They gave the opportunity to leave Venezuela, to leave the power, and he didn't accept. And then they sent some shipments, and he said, "No, I won't." Like Paro. Okay, and until they because honestly they offer many ways to leave the power, and he didn't accept. Why? Because he cannot show himself fragile. Okay, because if not, the whole system fall down. Okay, so that is the problem of uh of Paro. Okay,
And also, God is showing that he's not limited by time.
yeah, he's not limited by time. Yes, but at the end, God is showing to the court, to the Egyptians, okay, oh, this God is more powerful than Paro. Okay, remember that Paro was a, a, a God for them. Okay, and so that is for me the way he God is showing, and it's interesting as you mentioned the three names of the son of why Shimeon, why Levi, why Reuben. Okay, Reuben was the firstborn. Okay, uh, and then talks about Shimeon. Remember that God that Jacob said Shimeon and Levi. That was a group of these two guys together. They were very destructive.
Right.
But God is saying to Shimeon, okay, he is like cutting this this
The
this
ties to God.
tie,
Yeah.
yeah, to his brother.
Right.
And then he established Levi now as the firstborn on spirituality.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Because then later uh we can see the Levites and the priesthood and the leadership of Moses.
Right.
Okay. So
Right.
it's like establishing. So that's why it's important to look at to the names. Okay.
Yeah.
What are showing the names that
Right.
are in this portion.
Yeah. Yeah. And how would you relate all this for us to know what's happening in the world today? Because, I mean, we spend a lot of time, you know, seeing the wars in the different countries and all these things that are happening. So, how can these gods, how can we spend our lives today in relationship to this portion to make, see, I don't even know how to frame my question, but I'm not looking anymore to being happy. I want shalom in my life because it's only in shalom that I can really connect with God. If I'm too busy, as you say, or too stressed, or my spirit is crushed, there's no time for God. So, you know, the people we're speaking to, we are a remnant speaking to people, but we're not looking for solutions in the world. We're looking for solutions in the spiritual realm because, you know, even Jeremiah said, we shall be like, blessed a man who trusts in God, he shall be like a tree planted by the water. You know, the scorch, when it's scorching hot, we will be fed by the water. So, you know, the spiritual aspect needs to be emphasized for us today, in my understanding.
Uh, for me, okay, in this portion, the answer could be in the fourth, because it says like, I will take them, I will redeem them, I will freeze them.
Yeah.
Um,
And they will
in
be my God. I will be their God.
Yeah, that is hope at
Right.
the end.
Right.
Okay, and you know, for me today, yes, we are looking the world very crazy. We are looking the world that is very close to have a war. It's very fragile, the world today.
Right.
But at the end, the answer could be, I am God. Okay.
You know, when I read that, I was going to base my whole message around that. I said, what a powerful way to begin the message. Ani Yud He Vav He. It's so powerful, that name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That means he is under control. Okay.
Right.
Imagine that today, United States, for example, yesterday, uh, Denmark, France, and I guess some other European nations sent some military guards and forces to Greenland. Okay, to Greenland.
Right.
Okay, and because United States is pressing, we want to Greenland become part of United States.
Right.
Okay. Um,
Attack from Russia.
so yeah, in that is something that we never seen before, because it's like United States making hostile to European nations. Okay. And and at the end, okay, what could happen? We will never know, because we don't know exactly what is behind the cameras and behind the meetings
Right.
behind the, so we don't have enough information.
No.
They share the information they want to give us. Okay.
Right.
So in but at the end, imagine there is a war and there is something else. Okay. So so at every moment in our mind to be the name of Vaera. I am the Lord. I am the Lord. No
Shear.
matter what is happening around us, okay? So that is the most important thing. I believe that today we could do, okay? So it is to believe that he's under control. Remember that at that moment, Moses started to say, how can I present myself to my people? How can I present myself to Pharaoh?
Right.
I am very difficult person to talk so he was under very strong pressure. I mean,
Right.
can you imagine? Okay.
Yeah.
He was a slave of his own stress.
Right.
So, but God, the vaccine, I am the Lord, so trust in me, have faith, have hope.
Right.
Um,
That's our biggest challenge.
and yeah, that's a big challenge
Yeah.
because we need to rest on him. If we look at the opposite, what can we do to hear the voice of God? Hard work, no more. So that is to meditate, to to rest. Okay.
Or
Uh,
even to take moments during the hard work, right?
yeah,
Many of us work hard.
yeah,
Just taking that
yeah.
that split second, that moment to remember.
Rest. That is
Yeah.
the opposite. Okay, rest. In the other one, to breathe. Okay,
Right.
to take time to breathe. Okay, uh, to expand to ourselves. To say, okay. For example, I remember that sometimes I have been under very strong pressure. For example, prior to play a match, okay, of
Right.
I don't know of football or
Right.
soccer, and then I remember I breathed prior to enter to the field.
Right.
Okay, let's go.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
so that could be something good, but at
Yep.
the end, for me, that's the answer, to trust, to
But
be
it's
confident.
trust is like a muscle. It's constant,
Yeah,
needs to be worked on. It doesn't come naturally. It's a long process. It's a continuous say, I trust you. I believe in you. Because trust is more than belief. Trust really,
yes,
yeah,
yeah. You need to
surrender.
yeah, not only surrender. I mean, you need just to say, oh, I I cannot, God. I'm gonna leave this, take the
Right.
control, you,
Exactly. And then
because
breathe.
I have seen so many times in my life that when I leave the things, when I said, okay, I won't touch that. I want to let in your hands this problem. Okay. Uh, then comes the answer.
Yes, exactly.
But that is very hard because, for our nature, we
Yes.
need to have the control.
Yes.
I know one of my
Our
cousins. Oh,
confidence is to have the control.
Yes. What, Miriam?
because just thinking about that, what Mauricio just said, one of my cousins, um, she's about 88, whatever. She's not well, but she's still very articulate, etc. And when I talk to her about praying and trust and things like that, she's always intervening and saying, how could I ask God to do this when there are children dying, whatever?
Yeah.
Like, but that's not correct. And it's not really trusting God. It's intervening with our own, it might be a sort of kind of self-righteousness without even realizing it. Like, who am I? It's not a conscious, because she's not an
Right.
arrogant person, but it is a kind of automatic response of self-righteousness that maybe we have, like, who am I when there are people dying? Why I don't want to ask for anything.
Yeah, and religion kind of gives you this idea of martyrdom, and it's not what God is asking.
No, it not at all.
Yeah, it's an
And sometimes, like what you said, trust is more than just, oh, I trust you. It really is just saying, I can't do this.
right.
I'm going to leave it to you because I can't. It's
No,
knowing when we do what we can, and then it's knowing when we can't.
exactly.
It's really
Otherwise, what's the
important.
point in believing in God if we don't trust Him?
Yeah, but I mean, the two sort of go together, I think. A person who really, you can't, it's hard to separate. You could believe in God, but I think when I talk about it, I'm talking about you can't really believe in God and separate it from trust. Like, what does it mean? Oh, I just think he's there. If you really know that there's a God and you've been encountered God in your life, you have to work on the trust, but they're not really separate. But another thing that you have to work on, and I was listening to Dennis Prager and big on that, really got me, and we talked about it yesterday, but also the idea of thanking God for what we have, not just the making a list and the. It's got to be like a muscle, as you say. We've got to practice that. Look around, and it could really switch you to another state of mind.
Yeah. But it's funny because even that always comes from us. Because I was doing a simple thing this morning. I noticed one of the things that I use in my kitchen very often, and sometimes it doesn't occur to me to clean it. And I all of a sudden I looked at it and I said, wow, this needs really cleaning. And I took it and I just let the water run over a part of it. And I thought it was almost like it was like a shock of, wow, thank you for water. We take so many things for granted. We don't even remember. And I think the more we tend to do that, the more God shows us his how real he is in our lives, even in the smallest things. And the more we have that, the healthier we become. The happier we become, and our life becomes so rich in the smallest things. And we're not, as you say, Mauricio, building bricks. We're doing things out of gratitude. And that's a process. And the older we get, I think, the more we allow that muscle of trust to work, the more we'll see our life change. And that's what people are watching. That's when they see God in our lives. And we don't even realize that we're being that testimony to them. And he says it so that my name may be proclaimed throughout the earth. His name is his reputation, is everything about him. Whereas the gods, we've made so many gods today. When we were in the New Age, how many gods were there? And money is a god. The so many gods. We don't even realize just how many of these things are holding us captive. The superstitions are the things that we allow to put us back into slavery. I'm afraid to do this because this might happen. We're so filled with anxiety today, but but when we finally just ask him, he starts to. He says
And
he wasn't only saying it to them. He's saying, Miriam, I will free you. I will deliver you. I will be your God, and you will know that I am God. He says that to us. It's marvelous.
another thing that, when I speak to people about God or whatever, like we know it, but when we say that his name may be proclaimed, a lot of people who just read these things and say, what an arrogant God. So I've been asking, like, I'm thinking a lot, like, what does that mean? So that my name may be proclaimed.
Yes.
To me, it's like, it's it's not about God's name for obviously it's not for God. It's when we know that God is the source of everything, like the living waters, it's life itself.
Yeah.
So when you say that his name may be proclaimed, it's like the source of everything. Even
Yes.
when you have, like when I had a pet rabbit, okay, sometimes I'd look at this rabbit, this little animal, I say, oh, like this is unbelievable. he has lungs and ears and a nose and a system just like we do. I would just sometimes would give me like joy just to look at this creature. So God is our life. So when we say that his name may be proclaimed, and if you just read it, I get that from so many people. Why do we need to proclaim his name? Why he has an ego? You know, it's no,
But
it's
what
that
does his name represent? It's like Mauricio said before, and we were talking about. He went from being El Shaddai to Yud He Vav He. What's in a name? When you say my name, you think of the characteristics that you know
of
about me.
course.
So his characteristics are he can heal. He can change events. He can control time. He can do things that so far are so far above our understanding even. And the more we get to know him, the more we see him in our lives, the more we realize that, yeah, before I relied on fortune tellers to tell me, or the rune stones, or the stars that, I'd have my fortune read, my palm read. I was always looking, how am I going to know who I am and where I'm going and what I'm doing? But once I got to know him, he's the one who goes before me. He's the shepherd who opens the way to everything in my life. And I don't need, all those things to be wealthy, to be known by the whole world. I just need to be me in the way God knows me. It's like it's so powerful. But that's why they say, what Christianity will say, you have to proclaim the name of Jesus. Just saying the name will change you. That is nonsense.
No, no,
That is
no,
superstition.
no. Yeah. But I mean, it's for us to know that proclaiming his name is like it's for
Saying
us.
is saying what he does in our life
Yeah, what's what I
by
mean?
living it, not by having us tell people about it,
No, no.
but by what we have to be a living testimony, a living example of what he's doing in our life, so that when they look at them, like I went yesterday, I was singing, and I went over to a friend of mine after, who I'd met at Maimonides, and she just says, look at her. She was saying this to somebody else who knows me. You don't even have to, she doesn't even have to wear any bright clothes. Like her whole face is shining. And I went, wow, people see my face is shining, which shows me that God is so real in my life. That's what we need. We need to shine his light. That's what Yeshua said. Let your light shine among men so that they may see your good works and glorify God, not glorify us. If we're looking to glorify ourselves, it doesn't mean anything. That's a constant battle that we have within us. How can we glorify our God? And that was, I read one study with the word kaved. Kuf Vav Dalet. Kaved, it says Pharaoh had a lev kaved, a heavy heart. But if you take the same letters, Kuf, Vav, and Daled, and you change the initials, it means kavod, glory, God's glory. The same root, but it's a different direction. There's so much, and when I listen to you, Mauricio, how you see these things and how I see these things and how others see these things in the same words written for us to read in the Torah, it's so astounding how they are limitless. They go beyond the limits that we put on them. We can see them according to what we're experiencing, what we're going through, but God goes beyond all those things. Anyway, if does anyone have anything else to add? Well, we thank you for joining us today. This small community, I believe, is so blessed to know what we know about the simple word of God. And let's keep praying for each other. Let's keep praying for what we see going on in the world, but we don't have to get involved in it. We can live in our Goshen. We can look out on the world and we can shine our light into it. God is going to do the rest. If a war is coming, he's in charge. If we don't have food tomorrow, he's in charge. whatever is going on in our lives, He's in charge. And the more we know that and the more we trust Him, the healthier and the happier, the more peaceful we're going to be. So in all that, I say Shabbat Shalom. God
Shalom.
bless. God bless you all. Let's keep praying for each other and for our families. And we will continue to avodah, to do our service to our God.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat
Shabbat
Shalom.
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 Shabbat Shalom, Sari.